You're listening to a new Mothman podcast. Hello, I'm Mothman, Daryl.
And I'm Amanda, the medium.
When you listen to our podcast, I want you to ask yourself, what is it that makes us afraid of the dark? Does the supernatural or paranormal exist outside our imaginations? If we experience something, which is not possible, is the experience false or fake? Or is the boundaries of reality more advanced than the boundaries which modern science can explain? This podcast is going to address some of those issues, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Amanda, we are lucky to have your father back in the studio with us again tonight.
Indeed, my dad is back, and just to reintroduce him, he is a local pastor here in the Clemens area, and his name is Bob, and he's going to let us know a little bit on his beliefs and on what the Bible says about life before and after death.
And, in tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about some things that you and I, Amanda, have talked about in the past. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I wanted to ask Bob about is the fact that, Bob, we've had people to call in that were really afraid of talking to anyone outside of their own home because the way that people feel in the Western Hemisphere about the life before and after death. And this one lady who called in and stated that her little girl from the time she was 2 years old started talking about Elkin, and they had no earthly idea what Elkin was. They had never heard of Elkin before, and they lived in Atlanta, and just Elkin, what was Elkin? And she said she lived there, she played there, and so they kind of thought, well, she's just this little play, place that she has, that she come up with. They don't understand where the word Elkin come from, though. Well, they decided that they were going on vacation, so they packed up their car, and they were driving from Atlanta to Washington, D.C., and they took 85 to Highway 77 and 77 up to 81, and while driving on Highway 77, the little girl just started just getting all excited and screaming at her dad, "Daddy, turn here, turn here, turn here," and just screaming and hollering. So the dad just wanted to appease her, so he says, "Well, I need gas, so I'm going to turn off here." So he turns off and goes up to the end of the exit ramp there, and sure enough, there's a big sign that says Elkin, North Carolina. And the little girl says, turn left, turn left, turn left. So he turns left, and they drive over to Elkin, North Carolina. While they're driving around in Elkin, North Carolina, she's pointing to places. She said, "I used to work there, and I used to play there." They went by a park, and she said, there's a different swings. There's something different about that, but I used to be in this area. So, we have a lot of people that have children, especially in the younger. According to Dr. Jim Tucker, who is a professor at the University of Charleston, Virginia, he talks about the life before and life after death. He's done research all of his life on this. And he says that a child, when they're probably around 2 years old to 5 or 6 years old, their brains we're using 100% of our brain. We're not like you and I, which we've closed off most of our brain because we need to remember this, we need to remember that. They use everything, and they can still recall things that he believes can be a past life. And so I was just wondering your thoughts on life before and life after death.
Well, there's not a whole lot that I know about life before death, or life before life, I guess you would say. The understanding that I have comes, again, from the Bible. In Psalm 139, it tells us that we are fearfully, wonderfully made, and that God knit us together before we were ever saw the light of day, while still in the mother's womb. He put us together in very specific ways. And we're not just a random coming together of chromosomes that produce this entity that we are as humans, but we are designed, prescribed, and guided and led through all of that. Before life begins, God knows, and He put us together. Now, life after death, I do have some understanding. In my many years of ministry, I've had opportunity to sit with just literally hundreds, probably more than that, of people that were in the last moments of life. And I remember one lady, she was at Baptist Hospital, and she was just a dear heart in so many ways. And we were sitting by her bed, and she had not really made any response for a long time. She sat up and said, "Tell her I'll be ready in just a few moments." And I said, "Tell who?" She said, "The lady over there. She's been standing there all day." She said she's got a print dress on, and she's got a big pocketbook, and she's just been waiting for me. And I said, "Well, I can't see her. Just, tell me more about it." And she said, "Well, she is so kind and so patient, and she's waiting for me." And as we were there, this lady passed away. And as she did, I don't know what you would call it, but we felt something very strong in that room that night. I have sat with others, my own parents. I saw my dad not moving for days in a coma. And we prayed over him, me and his preacher, and my mom. The preacher left. My mom turned and looked out the window, and I was watching my dad as he sat straight up in bed, put his arms up, and had the most pleasant look on his face. As he fell back, he was gone. My mom, for 24 hours, had not moved in her last day. And all of a sudden, she took her hand out of my wife's hand and put it up to her lips and then pointed straight up. And she was gone. I've seen others this way. They recount, even recounting some of the things they've seen. I have a friend that was shot. And all the things that transpired, they said he was clinically dead completely. But he said he was freezing, but he felt warmth. He heard voices. And those around him said he sat up and said, "Mama," who had died 2 weeks prior. And he said, "I did not want to come back from this. I wanted just to stay where I was because it was so peaceful and so comforting." Heard that from other sources as well.
Now, Bob, the quantum theory states that energy cannot be created, or can it be destroyed?
Right.
Science says that we are our brain and our being is made up of electrical particles that are energy. If that energy can't be destroyed or created, and it's in our body, is our body not a conduit that allows us to tune that energy into the person that we are? And then once that conduit, it's like buying a car. You get some good cars and you get some bad cars. When that body finally dies or stops working, it stops being a conduit, isn't that energy just released and then goes?
It most assuredly, I believe, again, to be...
Is that our soul?
I think that more than likely is probably that. There's even been calculations that science has done through the years that there is a certain craziness of weight loss at the moment of death that they can't explain why. They said it's not air, it's not anything else,
right?
But said something leaves, and they don't know what that something is. I do believe it is the soul.
Well, that gets back to our normal question, or our original question. Is there life before and after death? Is that not the same? If we are energy and we go back to where heaven or whatever we go, can that energy not come back to the earth or be sent back by God in another form to inhabit another body? Isn't that life before death?
Well, God can do whatever he wants to do, and he's able to do it. But I think because of the uniqueness that he described in the Bible, as I said, through Psalm 139, that the individual is the individual. It's not an individual that is shared among many others. And so by that very fact, I think that God makes us a living creature, just as he breathed into Adam the breath of life, and there was no one like him before, and never been one like him after. I think God is able to do whatever he wants to do, but he has designed his intelligence and his being and his revelation to us, and I believe this firmly in my soul, through the Word of God. And that's what he wants to know. God's infinite, and that's why eternity is eternity, no time. And so through eternity, we'll learn more about the infinite, who is God.
Right.
We'll never exhaust that. We'll have that going on forever and ever and ever. And heaven is not sitting up on a cloud playing a harp. I think we're going to be working, doing, and using the greatest abilities we've ever thought about. I even had a professor one time said, I think we're going to be doing travel throughout the universe and telling other planets who he is, because he said he came to this earth, especially
right.
This time of the year that we think about that.
Right. And, and that brings back the stories about, and you can read these and you can see them, research on some of these stories about the children who come back have a mission that they wanted to accomplish on Earth and didn't get a chance to accomplish it. I think they made a movie about this little boy who went to heaven, saw his sister who died, and he didn't know anything about having a sister.
Right.
And he,
90 Minutes in Heaven or something like
something
that.
Like that.
What was it? I'm not sure. That may not be the book.
No, that's fine. That's not important. The important part is, do you believe that God would allow a person to have a second chance here on Earth to accomplish something that he failed to accomplish the first time?
Well, I think God is the God of second chances, period. But I think while we have life, we have opportunity. I think when we leave this life, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to leave and to die, to not to exist anymore as far as a living, breathing entity, I think that portion of life is gone. The Bible even tells us that what is life? It's but a vapor. It appears for a moment, then vanishes. It's short. But as I said, I've known folks who have had, quote-unquote, near-death experience, or what I maybe could term in a different way, because they weren't near dead, they were dead. And somehow they came back to life.
Right.
And they came back with great purpose and with, a desire to do, and fear was gone. Death held no fear for them any longer, because they said, hey, I will welcome it because it was better than this life.
Well, Bob, I'd like to talk to you a lot longer. I would like for you to come back, because I would like to talk to you about, we have some people that feel like there's dark entities in their home, and they've, and I understand that you've went into homes before to help remove those.
Yes.
So I would like to talk to you about that on that next episode. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. From Amanda and myself, good night, and we will see you next week.
Good night.
Good night.